particularly those who are in need of help or who are in distress. I've asked a couple of my own students, well, what are your plans? And like many undergraduates about to graduate, they're not certain what their plans are. And I can recall, it wasn't that long ago when I was in your position, and I had to think of, I went to school originally to become a lawyer, and then when I studied law, I realized I didn't want to be a hypocrite, not nothing bad against lawyers. But I did study law. And I ended up winning a scholarship to travel around the world and still wasn't sure what I wanted to do, except that I knew I wanted to be of some assistance, some use to humanity. And that took me on a number of odysseys we don't have the time to discuss today. But let me just enumerate a few of the possible careers that you might consider as graduates in the humanities. And I want you to think about it from both the standpoint of employment and as potential entrepreneurs. Because we are at a moment in history, not only from the long view of history that I spoke about earlier, the end of the Kali Yuga and the beginning of the age of Aquarius, or the Golden Age. We are at a period where since 2007 the world has been in the throes of a major, in fact, double-dip economic recession. And so it would be foolhardy for any teacher to stand up and tell you that just because you got A's, Katie, you're going to get a job. There's a job there waiting for you when you get out. That's a lie. Unfortunately, it's not there. I mean, unless perhaps you've been given a promise. It's not out there waiting for you. Therefore, I commend the University of the Southern Caribbean for last year hosting a seminar, or conference, or symposium on entrepreneurship. Because really, it is in the creation of work, of business, that you're able to apply skills that can be of service to society and therefore earn you the means to have a decent livelihood. Musician or museum curator, musician, artist, teacher, philosopher, theologian, pastor, architect, graphic artist, interior designer, minister, government minister. My colleague there giving me some interesting body language. Well, I'm talking about ministers or politicians who are really about service, not about self-service. Creative writer, blog writer, journalist, lawyer, professor. Public or private sector, NGOs. I suggest that if you do decide that you want to go to try your hand at your own business, that you get a little experience working for someone else first, in the sense it's sort of on-the-job training. But give them your best. Give them, if you're going to be working, don't just work for money. Of course, we all need money. When you go to Hilo, they don't ask you, how did you do in humanities? They want to see dollars and cents. So it's ignorance to pretend that money is not important. Money is important, but it is not the most important. Your character is most important. Your ability to concentrate, to focus, is most important. But you should know a little bit about business before you get into business. And I would suggest, in addition to getting some work experience where someone is paying you to work, you also take some studies in areas of business and look at things like sole proprietorships, partnerships, limited liabilities, and even cooperatives. And possibly even one of you in this audience may be producing a transnational corporation out of Trinidad and Tobago. It's not impossible. But whatever you do, I ask you again to consider these watchwords. That politics without principle, science without humanity, education without character, and business without morality are not only useless to the society, but they are absolutely, positively dangerous. I'll give you a little story. There was a very famous man, and I'll tell you his name afterward if you don't guess it, who had accomplished many things. And one day he was reading the newspapers, and he found his obituary. Someone thought he died. And while he was reading, he saw here, so-and-so has died, the creator of weapons of mass destruction, and one of the most heinous inventors in human history. Well, of course, it was Paul. And he went on to create a number of, he said, this is not how I want to be remembered. This is not the legacy I want for humanity. This is the man who invented dynamite, who developed nitroglycerin, but you know him today for things very much other than that. The peace prizes, the literature prizes, the prizes in science, and I'm speaking of none other than Alfred Nobel. Do I have time for one short story? Oftentimes, things don't go as we plan or as we expect. And I'm not afraid in an audience like this or intimidated to speak about the Creator, because God always has a plan. Man may propose, but God disposes. So we have our plans, and as I guess it was Steinbeck who wrote, the best laid plans of mice and men will soon go awry. But I do believe that things happen for the best. And the story is that once there was a king, and he was with his chief minister, and he was doing something, preparing to go out on a hunt, and he cut his hand. Got a nasty gash on his hand from a knife. And the minister quipped, well, it happened for the best. The king was incensed. How come my hand is bleeding, I'm in pain, and this is what you have to say? You're my prime minister? Lock him up. Put him in jail. So as they're carrying him off, the minister says, it happened for the best. A few days later, the king was out hunting, and he was separated from his hunting party and captured by some, I hate to use words like savage and primitive, but people who really didn't care that he was a king or not. They wanted to take this captive and sacrifice him to their deity, whoever that was. And they had their pot boiling, they had all the seasoning cut up, and he was ready to go in, and then suddenly they noticed a cut in his hand. He said, no, we can't use him, he's imperfect. Let him go. So they let him go, he went back, and he remembered the words of his prime minister, brought it back. You know, what you told me about everything happening for the best, when I cut my hand, it was true. They didn't kill me, they didn't eat me because of the cut in my hand. He said, but there's a question I have. When I was throwing you into prison, I can see why you said it happened to me, but why did you say it didn't happen to the best for you? Here, the Prime Minister. He said, well, if I hadn't been in prison, I would have been with you. And if they didn't eat you, they would have eaten me. So remember that everything that happens, even though it's not the way we want it to happen, it's not what we necessarily plan to happen, it happens for the best because God has a plan. I want to conclude and then open the floor, if I may, for any questions or comments you have, with a poem by another Nobel laureate. In fact, he is the first Nobel laureate from the Commonwealth, the English Commonwealth, and the first from India. His name is Rabindranath Tagore. I have scaled the peak of fame's bleak and barren heights, and found no shelter. Lead me, my guide, before the light fades into the garden of quiet, where life's harvest mellows into goldenness. This is what I wish for you all, you graduates. Congratulations once again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for inviting me.